You just took the highway turnoff. You're now entering Dreamland. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to those of you who have been to Dreamland before, and welcome to those of you joining us for the first time. You are listening to Now Entering Dreamland, a podcast that's dedicated to dreams, sleep, and everything in between. My name is Stacey Axler, and I am your host. And you are listening to episode 2 of Now Entering Dreamland. And this episode is where I really get into the meat and potatoes of why I wanted to start this podcast. This is going to be the first episode where we talk about dreams in depth and we do some dream analysis. And I'm really excited to do that because in this episode I have a guest, a special guest. And my guest's name is Ali Cheff. Ali is a friend of mine. We met in Washington, D.C. We do comedy at the same theater, which is Dojo Comedy, in the Petworth neighborhood of D.C. Ali is on a house sketch team with Dojo Comedy, which is called Dear Friends. They're very, very funny. Ali is very, very funny, very talented. Not just a comedian, also an actor, a sketch writer, does all sorts of different wonderful creative things. Very talented at everything that I've seen. Hysterical person. I was so thrilled when she said she wanted to do this podcast. I knew we would have a great conversation, and we did. So, without further ado, journey further into Dreamland with a dream analysis discussion with myself and Ali Cheff.
So I've always had like lots of dreams and like wacky dreams and stuff, but like suddenly I feel like they've just been more on the surface when I wake, or I'm noting them when I wake up versus just being like, oh, that was weird. I'm like, I'm gonna be talking to Stacy soon. I need to like remember these.
Oh my
I should
gosh.
pay attention.
Well, thank you for doing putting work into this. That means a lot. So basically what I just kind of want is to have like a very free flowing conversation about like dreams and sleep and whatnot, just because I think the topic's really interesting. And like,
Okay.
I know I kind of like casually talk about this offhandedly sometimes, but like my own relationship with like sleep, and I don't have I'm not good at it, to be honest. Like, don't sleep well. I never have. I sleepwalk. I have since I was like a toddler.
Do you still sleepwalk?
Yeah.
Are you like my brother used to do that, and he'd like go up staircases and stuff. Are you able to like exit rooms?
Yes, which is frustrating. I've left my home once. That was not good.
Whoa.
But I didn't make it far. I only made it to the elevator. And then I woke up and I was like, but it wasn't great. It was not great. But luckily,
It was great. It was not great.
it was exhilarating, but it was dangerous.
Do you remember the dream that you had that like launched you out the door by any chance?
I'm not sure what specifically was going through my mind that was like, well, we gotta go like now. But like whenever I get really into sleepwalking, I always think I'm late for something. And I'm like, I'm late, like I need to get moving. So I honestly, knowing me, was probably trying to get to work, which is so lame. Like I was like, well, we need to go to work. And it was like 3 a.m. So frustrating.
Oh my gosh. Can you imagine if you woke up at work? That would have just been terrible.
So terrible, and also just like super embarrassing because I was wearing like my clothes I wear to go to sleep, which not suitable for work or really anything. Because I don't wear that many clothes. Nor does anyone, I don't think. I think everyone underdresses for sleep.
Well, yeah, and it depends. I mean, like, I don't know. Like, I used to live in a yurt, and then like I've lived in lots of places where we delay turning on the heat. So you're like, now I'm gotten home. I guess I'm gonna layer up. You're like coat, second coat, hats, socks.
Well, that's a good point. I feel like for me, my go-to is like, I'm just gonna use a lot of these blankets. So like I'll have like 10 blankets on my bed, but I'm like, I'll be fine in just this t-shirt that I've had since sixth grade. And
Oh,
we'll
so
take it by it.
it's that like this material where you're like, oh look, there's
Yep,
my hand.
that is the material. It was insane. And so I woke up and I was like, luckily I left my door unlocked, so I just went back into my home. But I I feel like so what really prompted this for me at least was on social media and stuff, a lot of people have been saying they've been having like COVID dreams. And like I've always been a person who's had like bad or unpleasant dreams. So it's like one, I was like, I feel upset for everyone who's experiencing this now. And then two,
Yeah.
like this seems like a strange kind of universal phenomena
Hmm.
that's happening. So it's like I would be remiss if I didn't talk about it and try to turn it into some type of project because I miss projects. That's
Yeah.
the big inciting incident to all of this is I just miss projects so much.
Yeah.
That's what.
Yeah. COVID dreams. I haven't had any of those. That's for sure. Um, I had a dream the other night though. I think what I love about dreams is that um there's so many different scenes that don't seem like to be nerdy. I would say it's like a Richard Foreman play where Richard Foreman used to like put lines in his play between objects and things
Mm-hmm.
to make you think that there's a connection, but they might not actually have a connection. I love how like dreams, like somehow you started off talking to one person and then they transform into like a jackal or something, and
Yes.
you're talking
Mm-hmm.
to them, and then suddenly, you know, I'm a very active dreamer. Like when my mom told me, well, you're dreaming, just tell the scary thing to go away, you've got control. I used to be like a puppet master. So when I was a kid, I would go into my dreams and I'd be like, you go there, you go this, you do this, you do that. Okay. And then I'd be like, and then I'd find myself like falling into the dream. And then I'd be like, I don't like this. New scene. And then I'd like
Oh my
create a new
gosh.
scene. And then if I was having like conflict, I remember I had a soccer coach that I'd conflict with, and I was so mad that I was sick and he still made me run laps that
Oh,
I
damn.
had a dream. I was like, my dad dies in this dream. I'm at the funeral, and my coach is an asshole because he wanted me to run laps, even though he's respectfully at the funeral, right? And so then I'm like crying in it, giving my amazing speech that I would have given at soccer practice. Being like, you don't understand, I deserve to rest right now, was basically the speech because my father has died in this dream, right? And then I started crying so much in the dream that I was like, oh, I think I've gotten trapped in the dream. I should do another scene. And then I was like in a canoe, canoeing on the river with like birds above, you know.
That's amazing. So you were honestly like directing your own dream and the
Oh
oh
yeah.
my gosh.
Lots of those. And then there's like the like I was telling you, I had I'm part of this writers group and we have these prompts, and the prompt a couple days ago, one of them was just I want to say it was like, oh, my most vivid memory, or like the memory that has stuck with me forever or something like that. And what I realized is like when I I've got a lot of like early memories,
Mm-hmm.
but like the one that keeps has consistently reoccurred and is really vivid is my fever dreams.
Oh my
And
gosh.
it's the same fever dream that like, I mean, gosh, I think I was probably started having it. Uh, let's see, when did I move there? Probably like 7,
Mm-hmm.
right? So that's
Yeah.
like 20 some years, 30 some years of this dream that I can remember. And alarms have this sound, which means that if I own an alarm that has that same kind of pulsating sound that my fever dream has, I will wake up before it goes off. Like my body wakes me up before it goes off because I have to shut it off. And the way this dream is, it's real weird and bizarre. But so there's this place that there's a couple locations that I used to walk when I was a kid, growing up. And one was on this road below this old farmhouse, the oldest house on this property. And there were like raspberry bushes and like trees overhead, and the house is right next to the road, so the windows are right there, so it's kind of like eyes peering at you. So we used to walk there and pick raspberries. So that appears first in my dream, and I'm like with my parents. Then we're suddenly teleported further down the road under these other trees that if you like cedar that my dad would shake, and like that we called them the shower trees, little sprinkles would come down, whatever. And then I teleport back before the house to this like boat landing where there's like this old shed, and suddenly, because I grew up next to a river, so floods happened a lot. So this flood comes in, and there's a playground down there, and it gets wiped out, and the flood just like comes up, and all you can see is like the roof of this shed. And so it comes up, and then suddenly that's just like there, and then there's just black space everywhere else. And there's all these lines, these zigzagging lines in space that are red, and they just pulsate. And at that point, I can feel like my body just tense up in my jaw and my shoulders, and my forehead starts throbbing, and I feel very heavy, like just really weighted down, kind of like if you were to chew on that weird taffy that they sell at like carnivals that look like thumbs.
Okay.
Like that's what my face feels like, or like Play-Doh or modeling clay. So it's like everything has got that like weight, and I'm suddenly standing on these lines, and then there's a single water fountain with like bricks around it, and at one point I'll go get water from it, but like that sound is the same frequency as the alarm that goes like ah, 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 ah. I don't want to make the sound.
No, I know exactly the sound that you're describing.
Yeah, right. So like that happens, and then people are walking again, this is like suspended in space, all these lines. People like appear on these lines and like walk past at different points. And that same dream has consistently occurred like throughout my life, like that same exact dream. And then what I've realized as I've gotten older is a lot of dreams from my childhood, because I feel like, I mean, you wake up and like, if you've, like I was saying about the soccer coach, or like, let's say I had a dream about you, and in the dream, we go on a date, and like, we have a great time, and I wake up the next morning, I'm like, God, I just want to call Stacy because she's awesome, you know. Or I have a dream about my brother, and he takes something from me in the dream, and I wake up pissed at him. You know, like that those residuals of emotion kind of like carry over.
Yes.
And I feel, I mean, like, I know that a lot of memories of the past sometimes weave together with those early dreams that impacted me. So that reality, like the memories of what reality was, suddenly like become really foggy and vague, and kind of like, it's kind of awesome. Like I think back on things and I'm like, oh, that happened. And then I'm like, wait a minute. No, that was a dream I had when I was a little kid. That wasn't an actual event.
Yes, I agree with that. That happens to me all the time too.
It's crazy. Yeah. It's really crazy. And like I said the other day, I had dreamed there was like this gigantic boar the size of like a semi truck, like coming out of the woods. I wish I could remember more of it. I remember being like, I have to tell her about this. Yes. But it was like such a weird dream. It was a random thing where the boar suddenly came out, and I had to like make sure that I had like a dog with me, but at the same time I like needed to go make tea somewhere. Like it was like all these like elements together again that don't make any sense.
Right.
Have you ever, I know I'm just like dreams.
I like it. I love it. This is why I'm doing this.
Do you Have you ever done dream analysis with your dreams?
I've tried, maybe not as diligently as I should have, but the one that I wanted to purposely look up prior to doing this project was I have two currently in my life, and throughout my life I've always had dreams that have recurred over and over again. And right now I have two recurring dreams, and one of them is in which I am in trouble for reasons I don't know with like an old-fashioned loan shark. And the loan shark's like coming after. I know I'm like this like outlaw character in my own dream, and the loan shark's coming after me, so I know that I should go to this like very seedy like town at the edge of this like, it's like this basically this town where it's like in the old west where you can like lie low, except I don't actually know what time period it's supposed to take place in. I assume it was modern day, but now that I'm talking about it, it maybe is not modern day. So I have to like, I forcibly am going to this town to lie low, and it's like there's like always this looming threat of like, is the loan shark gonna come after me? The other one that I have tried to analyze is I always will go back to the city, where the city is like totally abandoned and like desolate and decrepit, and all of these like old buildings are there and they're all falling apart. And then at this point, I've been having this dream since I was a teenager. So I know at this point that it's like if I go towards like the left, there's like a forest and like all these trees, and if I go through the forest, there's like a clearing, and at the edge of the clearing there's like this huge mansion that was like once this like huge grandiose like mansion that's beautiful and like opulent, and now like it's all like crumbling and like ruined basically. And then when I go into the mansion, I go up the stairs, and then I go like up another set of stairs. I go to the attic basically, and I'm looking for something in the attic. I know that there's something in the attic, but it's been like 15 years and I've never gotten to that thing that's in there. And so I've actually tried to do internet analysis on this dream, which maybe is not real dream analysis, but from what I've been able to figure out, apparently if you're going to an attic in a dream, that means that like it's like something is buried in your brain that you're trying to like shake loose, like you're trying to like get some memory out, or it's like you know something's there and you're just trying to like shake it loose. And I'm like, what is it? Like I just need to know.
Do you so like do you note when those dreams, especially because it's a reoccurring dream, do you note when they occur, like what's going on in your life when that happens? Because that's usually so my friend Mick and I used to, okay, so I went to hippie camp. Do you know who Edgar Casey is?
I mean, I actually, no, I don't. I was like,
oh, you can say no, that's fine.
I do not. No.
Okay, so Edgar Casey is a fella who was known to, in his dreams, predict the future, or like have some premonitions, as well as like be able to locate somebody's like pill bottle in the cabinet, whatever, when you go into this dream state. Okay. So I went to Edgar Casey camp as a kid. Just throw that out there. Cool. And so part of the daily, it's like a regular camp in a lot of ways. Of course, I've never been to regular camp. So I don't really know. I mean, it's definitely got like a number of things that are odd, but at the same time, you still go swimming, you still go hiking, like sing songs. But every morning you wake up and there's dream time. So everyone has to write down the dreams of the night. And then everyone sits around and later in the day, like just before lunch and after our first activity, you sit around and talk about your dreams with each other. Wow. And the counselor usually like does a little bit of an analysis. So, and then fast forward to the future, like college, my friend Mick and I, her parents, her grandmother used to do dream analysis. And she, I didn't know what she always said to translate. Her grandmother only spoke Amharic. She's from Ethiopia.
Mm-hmm.
And so there are two different approaches to dream analysis is what I'm getting at with these two different like schools.
Okay.
So with the Edgar Casey one, and I don't want to say it was Edgar Casey driven, like analyzing your dreams, but not necessarily Edgar Casey method. Each counselor is doing whatever they're doing.
Okay.
But my counselor would do where a little bit of like what you're saying, looking at symbols within the dream and trying to fixate on those. And then the other thing is like to note what happens next in your life as if it's going to tell you something about the future to be aware of.
Wow. Okay.
With Mickey and I, the way we used to do it, which is different, and I lean more towards this because it's really easy to do for me, and everyone always, it's a good like party trick, I would say.
All right.
It is just having a conversation with someone about what's going on in their life currently, and then when they tell you their wacky dream, you're able to go as an outsider, oh, wait a minute. This, and this correlate to this stuff going on in your life.
Wow. Okay.
So if you were to tell me what you've been up to, I had, so like the boar dream I had, right? I was talking about this giant boar comes out of the woods, and there was another, I have a hound dog, but there was like another hound dog present. It was a pack of hound dogs. So what happens in this dream is that at one point, I'm negotiating with my sister and brother-in-law about setting up where they're going to stay, and we're planning on going to like do tea, and I'm going to do a tea presentation and probably a photo shoot, just kind of like running through these things. And then suddenly the world like shifts, and I've got like the tiny little dog that I've got to protect, and like a pack of hounds that I'm also like, oh no, the freaking out of the hounds. And then suddenly there's this and like I see the eyes in the woods, and it's a giant boar. Okay, I'm also a person that doesn't like killing anything.
Okay. Yes.
So this is real Ali.
I
so
knew that
even
about
Ali
you.
in her dreams is like very much like, I will still keep everything safe, even though I must defend and flee from something.
Right.
So
Right.
the boar is coming. I have something. I could easily try to get a pier or a weapon or something, but no, that's not going to happen. I have to run on foot. And so I have to run through this field. The boar is gigantic. I'm falling, I'm scrambling. I finally get to the house. I like shut the door, and the boar's like crashing. And then of course, like, I think my mother appears, and like maybe my dad, and they say something like, what's going on? Have you gotten prepared yet? And I'm like, there's a boar. I'm running from a boar right now. We have to lock down. And nobody seems as concerned as me.
Right.
You know, and I'm trying to push everything on this, and the boar's like, and so like suddenly I'm upstairs and I'm like peering down, I'm watching the boar circle, and then like a bunch of strangers with like lights on and like are like in military fatigues or like out in my yard, right? Okay, so weird dream, right? I don't remember how it resolves itself, but let's look at what's going on in my life. This is how I'd analyze it, right?
Okay, so let's do it.
There's a couple things. The pack of hounds. Okay, so my dog, there are some hounds that the neighbors let out. So I eliminate the easy things first, right? So the hounds run the hill behind my house. Bark, bark, bark through the night. My dog wakes up, and I put earmuffs on. Like literally, I usually put earmuffs on. I crank up classical music everywhere, hoping to drown them out. So, okay, so I've eliminated what the hound thing is.
Okay.
And my motherly thing towards my dog about him being worked up is where the baby comes in, the little dog. Okay.
Yeah.
Eliminated that. Okay, now we get to like my sister. I haven't talked to since February. everyone else in my family has talked to my sister since February, but I haven't talked to her. I haven't got on the phone. She lives in Oakland. You know, I've talked to all my other friends in California.
Yeah.
Totally punk older sister right here. She sucks. So, and she's like talking about maybe driving across the country with her dogs. So that comes in two parts. Like my parents not believing me about the threat outside, and me avoiding being with my sister and confronting it by having tea with her. Suddenly I'm transported, instead of that happening, like going with my brother-in-law and my sister and like being like, let's go have this nice time where there's no urgency. We can actually like really be present with each other. The tea that I practice is like all about like really being present with one another. So I'm avoiding it right there. And then later it's the guilt of my concern, me not being validated in avoiding it. I'm like, there's this thing that's more important right now. I wasn't able to go to tea with her because this thing that's so important is there. And then it not being accepted by a higher authority that knows both, right? Parents are a varying authority, but in this particular scenario, they're the parents of both of us.
Right.
Like the overseers. So what is the bore, right? What is this giant bore and this urgency and this scramble and like protecting this little one? So again, the baby dog in my hand started out as my baby, like my dog, and then it turns into, even though it's still like tiny little dog, my dog's huge. Wait, not huge. He's a regular sized dog, but I also have a dorky. So he kind of like turned into the dorky. Anyway, so this tiny dog represents my aspirations and my career pursuits and like the thing I've sacrificed my entire life for. And I may never achieve, but like I've been in a relationship with my dreams of success or like creating, being a performer artist.
Yes.
Longer than anybody else, right? Like longer than any of my friendships, longer than like if I were to date somebody, I'd be like, I have been in this relationship. It's been really shitty. They've been abusive. Sometimes they abandon me. I don't know if it's going to work out, but it's been about 30 years and you've been like what, a year, like a week, you know what I mean? Like this baby is the puppy in my hands. And then there's the bore and there's like the scramble and there's the fatigues. And those are all like looking at the climate now and stuff. They are industry. They're industry. They're the changing landscape and their time. Like suddenly there's the time capsule because, and this, I guess we could relate this to COVID because the time you can't like necessarily go out and like go for that work in the same way that you could before. There's like there's like this feeling of like being left behind and not being able to catch up or get inside fast enough, get in the door, literally get in the door, you know?
Oh yeah.
And at the same time, there's all this opportunity that you have to grab onto. And so the bore is like two part. And then the fatigues going around is the imminent return to what it was, but not being able to go in comfortably. It's like people holding on to the past way of operating and being like, we were excluding you before. We've decided we still want to operate in that same thing. So we're going to fight to go back to that way because we're scared of moving forward. So we're in fatigues. Like, I feel like that's like an intimidating kind of like old school view, like look. And
true. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm peering from above, being like out my window, being like, well, I can see what's happening. I've got to look out. I've got a layout of what's going on in the landscape. what is my action now in order to like keep myself safe and keep my dream alive? And I chose the dream over my sister. If she listens to this, Jacqueline, I'm sorry.
Jacqueline,
you know I love you.
This is simply for a project.
It's for a project, and this was one dream, and I happened to be thinking about how I needed to connect with you earlier in the day, and that's what triggered you being in the dream. And then my excuse, and we just analyzed it. If I just told you the dream, you wouldn't have known that. But now you know.
And now you know, Jacqueline.
But see, like that would be an analysis of that Mickey and I would do, and we do it for each other. I'd start taking apart what that urgency is, because like I do think your attic, when you mentioned the attic, is clearly something, because you're always scrambling and you're always looking for something in your dream.
Oh yeah.
But I wonder, like, my curiosity is it really always the same thing, or is it something different? And is it only, do you only think it's the same thing because it's been reoccurring versus it being like a trigger, you know? Like,
yeah, that's a really good question. And if it's still the same thing, I would be perturbed, because I've had this dream since I was like 14, and I've definitely want different stuff. Like, I just want different things.
Do you, I'm really curious, like I'm curious when you start noting what it is, what it might be. And also it might be a positive thing. It might be that you're about, like, you're ready to unlock something, an aspect of yourself that you weren't ready to do before.
I like that.
Like, and clear. Like, I guess it makes me think of like driving. Like when I have directions somewhere and I'm driving, there's a point where I'm like, I missed my turn. I have that sinking feeling that I missed my turn. Have you ever had that?
Oh yeah, 100. I mean, I don't really drive, but I know what it's like as a passenger, you know. You're like,
where you're like, I think we've gone too far. I think we should turn around.
Oh yeah.
Right? So there's that feeling. And I used to be like, oh my God, we missed our turn. What I realized is that feeling is actually, like, once I started like looking at it, took many years, it's the feeling before I get there. It's actually, I'm about to reach my destination. I'm about to hit my turn.
Okay.
And so now when I feel that scared, anxious thing, like, oh, I missed my turn, I'm like, oh no, it's just ahead. And then it always is.
I love this so much. That's a really good way to frame it. I like that.
Well, that's why I'm thinking, like, with your dream with the attic, it's like, it really might be a flip. Like, you might, when you leave, be like, shit, I haven't unlocked something. There's something I gotta find. And really, it's you being like, I wasn't gonna wear sandals with socks, and now I
am. I'm doing it. It could be something. Could be something right in front of me. I need to figure it out.
I know. It sounds like one day you will. And then you'll come on your podcast and you'll announce
it to the world. Oh my gosh.
If it's worth it, you know. Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of it is interesting to like to hear people's takes on dreams. And then also like since you mentioned earlier about like symbolism within dreams, sometimes though, just searching the internet is hilarious to see what comes up as like what it's supposed to mean.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh, I remember one of my friends was like, it means you're gonna have a baby. And I was like, oh my God, I'm now paranoid. You know what I mean? I was like, oh, I'm very vulnerable right now. You can't tell me this stuff. I'm very influenced. And then I was like, don't even get near me. Like, you breathe as near as me. I was social distancing for that year. I was like 6 feet. I don't care for friends. I don't care. Just stay there.
Just stay away.
Stay away.
I thought that was I thought this was specifically a Jewish
mother type thing where it's like whenever I would report like to my mom or my grandma, I was like, I had a dream that someone died. They'd be like, that's wonderful luck. That means they're gonna have a baby. And it's like, who invented this? Like, who said that this is like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, but I don't know. They really, really strongly believed this.
I think that like when people dream about death, that's usually, I have heard that like consistently it means like, usually there's an emphasis on it being for rebirth versus that. I wonder what happens if you actually like give birth in it. Does that mean you're gonna die? Or there, you know what I mean? Like, is it a reverse? Like, do they have just
I don't think there's the reverse. They haven't ever detailed what the reverse is.
Yeah, exactly. The other thing I was thinking about earlier when I was thinking about talking to you is like, I wonder if you've run into somebody that's like really big on the symbols and like analyzes it, like gets really into it, and then you do a spin-off of this where it's like spirit animals. I don't know where I'm going with that at all, but like I was like, and then
I'll write it down.
Yeah, like just a bunch of subversions I'm excited about too. Clearly I've been thinking about this all day.
No, I'm happy about it. Like, this is something where I think I'm so glad I'm doing this, just because like this is, as I said, you're the second person I've been talking to for this, and it's like it's been 2 really good conversations, so it's like there's something here. Like, I feel re-energized, which is what I've been like searching for since March. I've been like, I need a project.
Yeah. Did you, I have a sleepwalking question because I'm so fascinated by that. When you sleepwalk, do you also talk? Has anyone watched you sleepwalk?
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So when I was a teenager, so around like 14, 15, I started sleepwalking very heavily, like at least once a week, if not more so. And around like, so this is jumping ahead a little bit, but around 3 years ago, I like brought it up to my parents, and I said something around the lines of like, isn't it weird how I just started sleepwalking when I was 14? And they both kind of just looked at me and they're like, what are you talking about? And I was like, when I was 14, like, wasn't that weird when I just started sleepwalking? And they're like, you didn't start when you were 14. You were sleepwalking when you were like 3 years old. But I don't remember that. Like, I really, really don't remember that far back. But apparently when I was a toddler, I guess when they like got me, a bed and not a crib, I was like, well, just get out of it and be sleepwalking. Have no recollection. But the first time I remember sleepwalking was like a month or like a few weeks before I started high school. And I like I went up to my mom. It was like 2 a.m. I went up to my mom and I was like, hey. And she's like, Stacy, like, what are you doing? Like, what's going on? Like I woke her up and I was like, I'm ready. she's like, Stacey, go back to bed. Like, it was strange. It was very bizarre. But I'll go up to people and talk to people. And like in college, I would go into like people's rooms, and
oh my gosh,
like, and they'd be like, Stacy, do you need anything? And I would like be conversing with them, and they're like, they would be like, are you okay? But then they would, in the morning, I would wake up like in their rooms, not in my own room, and they'd be like, we just wanted you to stay because we thought you were sleepwalking, but we didn't know, but we don't want to kick you out, and it was the middle of the night, and it was like, well, thank you so much for letting me sleep in your bed. But you should have just sent me on my way, because I'll follow instructions when I'm sleepwalking. So if you're like, Stacy, go back to bed, I'll be like, okie dokie, and I'll just go back into my own bed. But people didn't think to do that. They were just like, well, we just need to let her stay.
Somebody's got some Polaroids that you've lived with.
Probably.
That's like, she's asleep. Time to go. Let's do this. Stacy, please host a show. You know what I mean? Like, tell us the weather report. Oh my gosh. My brother did it several times. I've been around it, like that camp I was talking about. Yes. We had two people in different bunks in their sleep talk to each other and have a conversation.
Damn.
That was so weird. Like they'd respond back and forth, but the conversation made no sense at all. You know?
That's something else.
It was wacky. I mean, as a non-sleepwalker, I mean, I don't recall ever sleepwalking. It can feel, if you don't know someone's sleepwalking, like my brother did it when he was like 8 or 10, but we didn't know. He like went up some stairs. He either went upstairs or downstairs. I can't remember, but he ended up on like the main floor in the dark and woke up and just screamed.
Yeah,
you know, like he didn't know where he was clearly. And then my sister, oh, this one's really creepy. So I was, the house I grew up in didn't have walls. Well, it had like walls, but not like bedrooms. My mom believed in like open space. So like the upstairs was just like an open space. I used to like take sheets and tack them to the ceiling to make a room. Right.
Okay.
So we had like this part of the house that was like a corridor. And on either side was a bed, and then you'd walk through to like where my parents' bed was, and then you'd walk through like the bathroom downstairs. So there's these two beds, and my brother's asleep here. My brother's, I think, sitting here. My sister was asleep here, and I'm in the middle doing sit-ups. I was training for soccer.
Nice.
And I'm doing sit-ups, and then suddenly my sister just sits up, right? She sits up and like turns her head, climbs off the bed and says, "They're here." Then she walks, there's a sheet that I've pinned up, walks around the sheet, and then there's we built an addition, and there's this tiny little door that goes to the crawl space attic of the addition because it wasn't as tall as the regular house.
Okay.
And we were basically creeped out about being on that side of the house all the time. We were just, even though the 200-year-old logs we were sleeping in, going into that section seemed weird. So she goes around the sheet and just doesn't come back. And she's like 6. She's 6. And I was just like, as an older sister, my thought was, do I go save my sister?
Mm-hmm.
It might be poltergeist.
Oh.
Maybe I should stay here.
So this is Jacqueline.
Yep.
Jacqueline, like, comment, subscribe.
She's a successful business lady, so this will be very entertaining.
This is good stuff. So wait, what happened to her?
I think eventually she like, I can't remember if she woke up or if we went around and got her. I'm the oldest, and then it's my brother and my sister. My sister's 6 years younger than me, and my brother's 2 years, and he and her are 4 years. So it's like there's a good enough difference where I think I hopefully was the one that went and got her. I hope. Yeah, because I was like 12, but that's still little. Like when I think about that now, I'm like, you're just so little. I think I might have called to her. Oh. I think maybe I called to her to come over, but yeah. Oof. I was so freaked out.
That's
I really,
creepy.
did not want to go over there at all. Yeah, that just like, no. I don't think I've been, I haven't dealt with like sleepwalking. It's funny. I'm like, I've dealt with people that have had other things happen that make you go, but I haven't dealt with sleepwalking in a really long time about being around other people that sleepwalk.
Mm-hmm.
But I am so fascinated by it because I am not a very good, once I wake up, I can't go back to sleep.
Yes, same.
Okay. Oh, wow. And you sleepwalk. That's amazing. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like I'd climb out of bed and then I'd be like, I'm awake now. Over.
So it's so weird because it's like I'm in this weird different state of consciousness and I'm like doing my own thing, and I've done weird stuff while sleepwalking. And I've like taken things from people. And like I've moved stuff around, and like I'm the type of person where like everything in my life is arranged in a very particular order. But sometimes like I'll wake up and I'll like open my closet and I'm like, why are all my pants over on the left side? And I'm like, damn it. Like, because in the middle of the night, like I'll like move my shit around and it's like, why am I doing this to myself? Like I don't even want my pants over here. Like, and it's such like it's such a silly problem to have, but I'm like, I don't understand why this is happening to me.
But see, like what's interesting, like just from hearing what you say, is you moved all the pants over.
Yeah.
It wasn't like you moved a couple, you still maintained your sensibility of order that you already operate with.
Yep.
Within your sleepwalking, which I think is wild. It's not like, oh, I'll just I put a couple pants over here. You moved them all. That's crazy.
It's
so
so
wild.
weird. Yeah.
That's
wow.
Yeah. Do you have problems going to sleep too, or is it just like the wake up thing?
Oh my gosh, yes, I have so many issues like going to sleep, like falling asleep, like quieting my brain and like just relaxing enough to be able to like go to sleep. What about you? Do you experience this?
Yes and no. I'm I just like the nighttime, staying up, and I feel like I have to get a lot of things done, and suddenly it's like night happens and I'm like, oh, finally, all that stuff I've been doing all day, now I suddenly have this endless time that I can get the rest of the stuff that I couldn't get to today done. Right. And then it's suddenly really early in the morning and I'm like, oh, I should go to sleep. And part of me is like, but is it really worth it going to sleep? Because there's not going to be that many hours. Maybe I should just stay up. And so then I spend about like, I don't know, 20 minutes debating with myself what decision I should make. But usually when I lie down, I'm good at like, I can, it'll usually take me about 20 to 30 minutes to fall asleep once I lie down. But again, if I wake up, and usually my dog's on a different schedule, I'll get woken at 5, basically 5 a.m. every morning, even if I've only gotten like an hour. And it hasn't always been that way. Like I used to live in a yurt, and well, actually not the yurt. Was it the yurt? No, when I've lived in a lot of weird places. I used to live with this millionaire and I lived in a wing of her house, and I was in yoga teacher training school. And so I had to be at the studio at 5 in the morning, or I had to be there at 6, and I biked there because I only biked in those days. And so it took me like a half an hour anyway, wake up, get ready, half an hour bike ride, and then bike back and then get ready for work that I had to be at like 9. So during that time, I went to bed at a fairly early time. And I think I probably got 8 hours at one point, maybe during that time.
Okay.
But I've also always worked, like I was that kid that pretended she was asleep on the couch so I could stay up. Like I've always had like the FOMO, like always.
All right.
And I think that like, I mean, like even the teacher training, I mean, I used to work at a tea house and I'd get off at midnight, and then I'd bike home, so I'd get home at 1:30, and then I'd go. I'm a morning night person. It's the middle of the day that's my problem.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of want to cut it out, and I'm not a nap person.
Yeah. Okay.
That's really what it is. I don't have problems falling asleep unless it's like I have like a crazy. I think if there's something I haven't done before, like a job that I like, a crew I haven't worked with, or like I've got an early morning shoot and I know that I've got to beat traffic and I need to like, you know what I mean? Like when there's something that I'm a little anxious about, I might have a hard time going to sleep.
Yeah.
Or if I feel guilty, if I've done something that I regret,
okay,
or someone's reminded me that I regret something, then I might spend a lot of time with my mind going, oh my God, how do I erase this? I can't erase this. And then I'm like, embrace it, Ali. And then I'm like, really just carve it into you so you really feel it. You know, like the actor in me really likes to get really masochistic with a lot of stuff, you know? So I like want to drill in that feeling. And then I'm like, remember that feeling. You might need it later. You know, just okay, cry some more. Okay. Are you tossing and turning? Oh, dude, good. Just hold on to that.
oh my gosh, Ali.
What about you? Like you say your mind races. Is it like racing about like, oh, I've got an idea. Oh, I need to write that down. Oh, I should do this. Or is it like playing out, you know, like when you dream about like, I used to wait tables at one point, you know, like rolling silverware. Like, is it that kind of racing?
It's both. Like I definitely sometimes I'm trying to go to sleep and then in my brain will be like, write down the stand-up idea, and it's like, you know, because I don't want to lose it, because there have been so many times in my life where I'm like, I'll just write it down in the morning, and then in the morning I'm like, oh, what was that thing I said? It was so funny. I feel like I've lost my best ideas that way.
Sure.
Never to be regained. So I've just been like training myself to just like put it in my phone, you know, whenever. I always keep my phone next to me, which I think is part of it, because then my phone will like vibrate and light up, and I'm like, what's going on over there? So it's like a double-edged sword. But then it's like I also feel like I'm like playing out situations in my brain. Like it's like tomorrow, if this happens, then I'm going to react this way, and tomorrow I'm gonna wake up at 6 and take a shower, and like planning out my whole future before it actually happens. So it's like, oh no, there's just so much going on, and then like I just can't relax to the point where I can just go to sleep.
Maybe I have a tape recorder, old school tape recorder by my bed, so it's not my phone. I should do that because my best friend, he used to do this thing where he'd carry a tape recorder on him so that when he'd get drunk, he could listen the next day to what he did.
I need this in my life.
And one, it's hilarious and super boring. Like both things happen you're like listening to the tape and it's like, like, cause he's out the window while he's recording himself in a car, you know, like making noises. And then he goes on he's a talker.
Mm-hmm.
When he's drunk, I used to live with him multiple times, and it's like one of those things where you're like, and he's still going, and you're like, So he's got these recordings, and it's like, well, you know how I am. And he goes on like a thing about it. And like, so there's the recordings. At one point there was like, he had a great idea about aliens, and then they start making like alien sounds on it. Anyway, so like I have tape recorders from that, and I used to sing, so I'd record my lessons. So I started just sticking the tape recorder because the phone is just, when I used to do casting,
Mm-hmm.
Like there's no end. You'll get a message. We actually need blah, blah, blah. This has changed. And you're like, and I was a personal assistant at one point. Like you just like, your phone goes, like you have to answer the email immediately.
Yes.
And it's like 3 a.m. and you got to go see them in a couple, you're like, huh. So I like the tape recorder. It's old school. Rewind. There's a cassette tape. If the ideas are stupid, you tape over them. And you're forced, unlike a phone, to revisit your idea. You know what I mean?
That's a
like,
good point. Yeah.
Like, it's like I went through all my notes. I'm trying to purge. Like handwritten notes over the years of like lectures, workshops, just funny ideas or whatever. And I'm like, I haven't looked at these since I wrote them down.
Yeah.
These are great, but I didn't look at them. So what a waste of years where I could have used this.
It's very true. Yeah.
Yeah. So I like the tape recorder because it's so limited. It's not like you can endlessly, you're like, oh, it's over. And you have to listen to it right away. You can't put in an extra like external hard drive and just like pack it away like a little rat. It's pretty great. Oh, that was the other thing I was wondering. When you're like, you were talking about having these ideas and these like playouts about what's going to happen in your day. Do you ever then wake up or like are asleep and you're like, oh, it's cool. I've already gotten dressed and taken my shower. I can keep like, I've already done all those things, and you're still sleeping, but you're like, I've done them. It's good.
I did once have a situation like that where I had never been on an airplane until I was 25, and I was going on like a work trip, and I was so like anxious about it because I had no clue like how to navigate an airport, how to like get on. Like, this was all brand new to me, so I was so anxious about it. I had a dream in which someone was like, how was your trip? And I was like, my trip? And they're like, you just came back from California. And I was like, I guess I did. I guess I went on my trip. And they're like, well, did you like it? And in the dream, I was like, I don't remember, so I guess it was okay. Like, and then I woke up and I had not gone on my trip. But for that, like, small amount of time, I was like, I've done it. I went to California and came back to Maryland. But I was so, like, I don't know. I was so out of my element for that whole business trip. Like, but I did it. I got there and I came back. So
how did you since it was your first time on the plane, did you sleep on the plane?
I did, because I was so scared. I just did not go to sleep the whole previous day, and my flight was at like 3 p.m. So I had been up for like almost 48 hours at that point, and by the time like when the plane was in the air, I was like, I don't like this, like, because all of the sensations were new too. So like as we were going up, I was like, is the plane supposed to be making the sound? And then I was like, well, no one else seems to be panicking, so I guess I'm just gonna sit right here and like stare straight ahead. And then when they gave us like our little beverages, I was like, things seemed to have calmed down. So I was like, well, I'm just going to, and then before I knew it, I was gone. Like I have 4 hours. It was like a 5.5 hours flight, and 4 to 4.5 hours, I was just like asleep. So that was convenient.
I think that's great for your first flight, especially like, I don't know. Yeah, I sleep now, but I used to not. Like, I used to like always stay up. Now I'm like, this is my time. I'm going to have to scramble and survive when I land. So that's wild. Wow. Yeah. Do you sleep? Since you mentioned business trips and travel, do you find that do you dream more when you are sleeping in like foreign beds than like your own? Like if you're in a hotel room, do you find that you like dream more, or do you find that not to be the case?
I feel like I dream more in my own bed.
Oh.
Because I don't think I get like good sleep when I'm in a strange place, because I think it's like I'm a little anxious about it. So when I was in like for this California business trip, they also like it was to San Diego, and they like put me up in this like very fancy hotel to the point where I was like, I don't think I belong here. Like it was just so, and like the bed was so comfortable, and like the hotel room was like huge, and it like looked across like all of downtown San Diego, and I was like, I don't like I could not like calm myself to sleep. Like I was like, this is too fancy for me. But like eventually I did like obviously go to sleep, but it was like I don't think my brain was able to like get into that consciousness where like I felt any dreams.
Yeah. I like asking you that question made me think about like I wonder, I feel like when I'm in a house, like I think I might dream more when I'm in like Airbnb or relative friends' houses. When I sleep, I think I also am a little bit more on on edge, if you will. Like I'm a little bit more like I am really good. Like if you slept in a bed with me, I could stay on my corner and not invade your space. I'm really good at that.
Okay.
I am really good at like sleeping in a single. Is a single the small one?
I think that's a twin. But
A twin?
I hear what you're saying.
You know, the little one with another
one.
person and stay on the edge so they still have plenty of room. Yeah, it's something that I'm just like, so because of that, I think that I'm like just slightly not fully asleep because when I'm in those environments. However, when I'm in a hotel, which is really familiar to me, and I've worked some gigs where I like have lived in the same hotel room for like a month and then gone to the next hotel room and lived there for a month, kind of thing, where it's like such a part of like regular that most hotel rooms, though, when I sleep in them, I don't really dream that much unless it's been like a crazy work day when we have a crazy work day the next day. Like if like everything went wrong or tomorrow, like there's just like anxiety placed on it. Otherwise, I think I don't really dream when I'm in hotels. Like I recognize that almost all hotel beds kind of feel the same, and the pillows and the smell of the sheets and the way they're like taut on the bed. There's something about that I don't find comforting, but I find familiar enough to be like, I'm supposed to sleep. Just go to like kind of like the heaviness of the fever dream.
Yeah.
Like that kind of weight of being like kind of like strapped in. I'm kind of like, there's nothing I can do about it. So I better go to sleep so I can get out of here sooner.
Okay. Yeah. I get that.
I just analyzed it while I was saying it. That's why it's weird to
understand.
I
appreciate it. I feel you also with like, for me, I don't know if you feel this way, but like I only sleep on the right side of beds. Like even when I was a kid, like I do not go to the left side. Like it's like I think I've trained my body. It's like I don't even like, I would rather like hug the corner of like the edge of like the right side of the bed than ever go over to the left side. Like I don't even like waking up facing the left side. I just
Where's your door? And has your bed always been positioned in that way? And is it all beds?
It hasn't. So I'm gonna we're breaking the boundaries of this format. So this is where my bed is. So I typically sleep like, this is my side. This is my side, and then no one else is here. So, and then the door is there. So I'm pretty like, I'm on the far side of the door.
And you face the door, or you face away from the door?
I face away from the door. I face this wall here.
Oh, wow. You're brave.
Really? Why do you say that?
I say that because, okay, so I can't have my back to the door.
Okay.
So when I was a kid, because like I was saying, we didn't really have like rooms. It was just like one open, it was basically like a weird open room with like a bathroom here. So it's kind of like a hallway, beds, and bed here, and then staircase. So my bed was always flush with a wall.
Mm-hmm.
So whichever bed I was on, I would face away from the wall.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
And so, like currently my bed is, if I rotate my bed, currently I've got space on either side, so it's not against a wall, but my feet are directed at the door. And when I lived, I keep bringing up the yurt because it's an interesting, because the yurt is round and I had two doors and it's one room and my bed was in the center, my feet were facing towards like the wood stove and the doors were on either side, but still at like the bottom of my feet. And I'm trying to think if there's any room I've never, I won't put my back to a doorway. It's like a survival thing. Like I'm like I kind of have a weird thing with windows too, but less so than doors. Doors and closets kind of weird me out. If there's any like doors.
Oh
like,
gosh, yeah.
Like your like I think that's a closet by the shoes.
Yeah, that's my closet.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
So closet doors make me uncomfortable as well. So if I have doors on either side though, I will still choose to face the door that people enter and exit from. Or I probably might start the night on my back, but I'll end up facing the door.
That's interesting. That's
very
interesting.
How many pillows do you like? Tell me about your pillows situation.
I have, so I used to be a one pillow person.
Yeah.
And I still use my like main pillow. Like I have two pillows now, but I like will like shove the other one like pretty much like far away from me when I sleep because I just like, I'm a one pillow person. Like I like just having my one. What about you? What are your opinions on that?
Well, I like that you have multiple pillows, but you're a one pillow person that you just push away.
Just push them away.
It's like just to confirm I'm a one pillow person, I need another pillow to acknowledge it.
Yeah, I really do, you know. I was not forced into getting them, but I was like, what if I had an overnight guest that needed a
Oh,
pillow?
yeah. Having a second for that reason.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Yeah. That's so funny.
If you could pick something to dream about, what would it be?
Oh,
I'm gonna
throw
that one at you.
That's kind of a fun one. If I could dream something to dream about, what would I dream? Oh, okay.
All right.
Okay. Mm-hmm. If I could dream something on repeat, over and over again,
sure.
I would dream the moment, this would be the sequence: body of water, me, mouth opening as it breaks the water and air hits.
Ooh.
I crest out of the water, repeat. That's what I would do. Yeah, I mean, like that's I know it's so weird. Yeah, there'd be trees, sky, the water would be perfect temperature. You can choose your imagination what you see. I know what I'm seeing, but like that would be my closing repeat dream.
I like it.
I dream to dream. Cool.
Thanks for listening to Now Entering Dreamland. I've been your host, Stacy Axler. If you're saying to yourself, wait, no, I want to stay in Dreamland, when can I listen to more of this podcast? After episode 1 and episode 2, episodes will be released weekly. So you can check back on your own, or you can just hit that very handy subscribe button and you can be notified by email whenever a new episode is released. Thanks for tuning in. You're now leaving Dreamland. We'll see you soon.